Charlene's there. Hi, Deb. Hi, Solarte John. Hi, everyone. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Garrett Van Gregory. Hi, Jamie and Lori. Hi, everyone. We're getting everybody admitted because it is 2 o'clock Eastern time zone here in the Pittsburgh area, and it's Wednesday. Happy New Year, Emily.
Happy New Year.
I think this is the last day we can say Happy New Year. I feel like after a week, you're like, okay, it's a little too much, but Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to all of you. Welcome into Life Amplified. Hi, Tina. Hi, Kim. And as we're getting started, we'll watch the waiting room. We always know we have some guests who show up kind of after we get started, if they're taking a break from work, or if they're sneaking in a break from work, or they're just coming to us from another group. So we'll watch the waiting room, but we will get started with the folks that we have here today. And we've got lots of things planned, right, Emily?
Several things.
Okay, so let's get started. Y'all, this is Life Amplified. It is our Wednesday to get together every Wednesday, 2 o'clock Eastern time on Zoom, normally on TikTok, but we're going to wait for TikTok for a reason we'll get into in a moment. And last week, let me say a couple other things first. First of all, we're brought to you by Amputee Aid. Amputee Aid is a 501c3 nonprofit located here in the Pittsburgh area, serving folks all over the country. And if you've got a friend or you know someone outside the country, we'd love to help them too. So everything we do is at no cost to our clients, whether you're here just to enjoy and spend time with us, or if you need help with things like travel assistance, a conference, a copay, a full-on prosthetic, or everything in between, let us know. We'd love to connect with you. You can reach out to us simply by clicking the Get Help button on our website, the little blue button at the top, or emailing us at info@amputee-aid.com. I'm Jennifer Paine. I'm the Executive Director for Amputee Aid and the co-host for Life Amplified. This is Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hi, and I'm social worker for Amputee Aid.
Yes, and my co-host. And together, we're going to be talking to you today about New Year, New Me resolutions. Should you make them? Why should you make them? And how to make meaningful life changes in a mental health context. And we have our special guest from Calm Pittsburgh. Hello, how are you? You can come off of mute and introduce yourself real quick, and then we're going to take a detour for a moment, okay? But come off of mute, our friend from Calm Pittsburgh, and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Tian LLLD. I'm a licensed associate mental health professional from Calm Pittsburgh.
Thank you so much. Okay, and so Tian, now we have a run of show. For all of you who don't know, we try to be off the cuff a lot of the time. A lot of the time we are, but we wrote out our script for today because we have some very important questions to ask Tian. Tian is a mental health expert, and Calm Pittsburgh has graciously given us another expert to be with us here for an hour and to talk from a mental health perspective about resolutions and how to make life changes and how to not beat yourself up when you are maybe not making changes as fast as you would like. Tian, we're going to hold on you for just a minute because we have a couple of special guests from Pittsburgh here, from University of Pittsburgh, from Pitt. And they are going to talk to us about a study that they have. And so we're going to have them kind of do a mini presentation before we get started on our larger conversation together about New Year, New Me resolutions and life changes. Before we do that, a couple of reminders for all of you. First, please share in the comments where you're coming from. Hi, Crystal. Crystal said hi to us already. Even if we know you, we'd love for you all to share amongst yourselves where you're coming from and how the weather is. It is unusually warm here in Pittsburgh today, right, Emily?
Yeah, it's in the 40s.
Yeah, so say hi to us. We'd like to know where you're coming from. And for those of you watching our recording on YouTube, hi to YouTube. Put in the comments on YouTube where you're coming from because we'd like to know how far we reach. Second reminder for all of you, we are recording our session. Sometimes we're on TikTok. We're not on TikTok right now because we want to be respectful to our Pitt people. But for all of you joining us on Zoom Live, we are recording, okay? Your faces, we can see all your lovely faces or your emojis and profile pictures. The recording does capture your voice. So if you are going to participate, and we hope that you do, and that you ask Tian some questions along with us, but just know that your voice will be recorded. If you're not cool about that, that's okay. Put your comment or your question in the chat. Emily and I will monitor that, and we can read your question or comment for you. And Lucho, who's behind the screen, hello, Lucho. Lucho can do that for us as well, okay? So we will watch your questions and comments, but you can always just come off of mute, interrupt us at any time, and ask your questions or comments or share your advice for other people who are similarly situated as well. final reminder for all of you, since we're going to be talking with our friends from Pitt, your presence here is important to us, but it's voluntary for this part of the conversation. We're not selling you anything. We're not forcing you to participate in anything. But if you want to know more about this study, hi, John. I see John waving at us. If you want to know more about this study, stick around and listen. If you're like not really interested in a study, I don't want to hear about it, come back in 10 minutes or just mute, go grab yourself some water or tea, and come back. But we want you all to stay and listen.
You guys
okay?
are awesome.
Thanks, John. It looks like it's nice and warm where John is. But John, put in the chat where you're from. We're going to put you on mute for just a minute so that we can hear from our friends.
How do I do that?
We'll do it for you.
How to do that.
We'll take care of it for you. Don't worry. So we've got some friends here from Pitt, and I see William's on. I think Wei is on as well. If one or both of you would like to come off of mute, introduce yourselves, and tell us more about what you're doing and why you're here today.
Yeah, hey everyone. My name is Wei, and I am a research coordinator from the Human Engineering Research Lab at the University of Pittsburgh.
Great.
And I have two studies to bring to you guys today, and I have made a PowerPoint. Am I able to share the PowerPoint to everyone?
Yes, yep. We can give you permission to share your screen. Just give us one moment, and we will do that.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, and William, why don't you introduce yourself while we are getting ourselves set up to share a screen, okay?
Exactly. My name is William. I'm the research participant advocate here at the Human Engineering Research Labs. So anybody that's doing studies with us, interested in what we have going on, you can just chat with me. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great.
I'm wondering how many people are local. Yeah.
Great. And it's a pretty big mix here, and also for our recording that folks watch on Friday. So William and Wei, if you don't mind putting your contact information in the chat, we'll also share that when we send out our recording on Friday. And as you all know, and if you don't, I'm reminding you now, we do record our session and we send out the recording every Friday so that you all can watch this and you can watch it on YouTube, okay? So Wei, tell us more about the study.
Yeah, so first I can speak briefly about our lab. So our lab is located at the Bakery Square at the East Liberty, and our mission, the lab mission, is to improve the function and quality of life for people with disabilities through advanced engineering products, clinical research, and medical rehabilitations. And today, these two studies are all for people with upper limb amputations. So the first one is 3D scanning for people with upper limb amputation. And the goal of this study is to collect 3D scanning data from people with upper limb amputations. And the data will be used in the future for prosthetic arm product design and development. And the study will take about 1 and 2 hours. You just need to come to our lab for one time. And what we are going to expect is that we will ask you to place your arm in a scanning device. And we also have study team members to measure your residual limb and put some reflect markers on your bony prominence for the data collection and measurement. And if you complete the study, you get $50 for the time compensations. And the eligibility criteria are listed on the right side. So first, you have to be above 18 years old and have an amputation of one arm below the elbow. And the length should be at least 4 inches between the elbow and the end of your limb. And there should be also at least 1.5 inches between the end of the limb and the wrist to fit for our future device. And there's also no current open sores or incisions or any other medical conditions that prevents you from wearing any of the prosthetic sockets. And if you're interested in this study, there's our contact information listed down below, and you can reach out to any of us. And if you mention about the prosthetic arm study, and we will know it. And if you are interested, you can take a picture of this study, of this slide. And for the next one, this study is funded from the Veteran Affairs. And the purpose of this study is to evaluate a prosthetic arm device that is already built from a company. And we want to test how people feel about it after they wear it at home or at the community, and also do a lab test in our lab. So I can show a picture first. So the device will look like this, and it is from the Stumpworks company. And we have a collaboration with them. And for this study, we are going to do it in 3 different phases. For phase 1, you come to our lab to see the device and provide some feedback about the design and the fit of the device. And for the second phase, you come back again, and we will make a custom-built prototype for you. And you can bring this device back to your home, and you will test it for 10 days, how you feel it in your daily life, and we'll collect all this information. And for the phase 3, you have to come back to do a lab testing. And what we are going to test you is, the first one is a functional test, which asks you to pull out the device and do a rolling with the rolling machine. And we will assess the range of motion, and also we will time you how long you wear and remove the device. The total compensation is $200 for this study. And the eligible criteria are almost the same with the previous one, but there's one more addition, is that you have to be a veteran, because this is a VA-funded study. But usually a study like this is that the study will expand to general public in the future, because if we are not getting enough people that we want, then we will expand the study and recruit people who are non-veteran. So if you're interested in this study, you still can reach out to us, and we can add you to a wait list. And once the study is go to the general public, then we can reach out to you and you can do the study. And I think this is a pretty cool device. It's lightweighted and it's breathable. The material that is what I was told. And on the right side is the QR code from our research lab. You can scan this and you can find more information about our lab. And there are many more other studies running, and you can go and check if your friends or family members are interested in any other of the studies. Please feel free to reach us.
Great.
And that's all for the presentation. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of that information. And so I think one key thing here is that we are looking for local people to the greater Pittsburgh area. If that's not you, if you know anybody who might be interested in one or both of these studies, please reach out. You can see William placed the contact information in the chat. Thank you for doing that, William. And we'll also share that contact information with our recording as well. And that includes what I'm hearing from you, Wei, is even for the veteran-focused research study. If you're not a veteran, get on the waiting list in case they expand that pool of people that they're studying. You still might be called upon to be part of that study. William or Wei, anything else that you want to share today?
Do you have any other thing to share, William?
If you're not in Pittsburgh, if you're local, like say West Virginia, Ohio, we would still be interested in having your interest if you are. Anything like beyond that, still you can let us know, because sometimes we do travel.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Great to know. Thank you for saying that, William. And I'm going to say this on the fly because I don't think I told you all yet at our PIT team. We can also help with the travel. Now, please, if you're maybe not from California over here, okay, but if it's kind of local-ish or it's a reasonable flight and it's okay with the team, we would also be happy to help with that, okay? So if you're interested or you know someone who is, please get in contact with William and Wei. Their contact information is in the chat. Thanks, everyone. Thanks you to both of you for attending. You're welcome to stick around if you want to hear more about mental health aspects for New Year's resolutions with Tion. You're welcome to stay or disconnect. That's completely up to you. But for the rest of you, I'd like us to kind of turn our attention now to our topic of today, which is New Year's resolutions and meaningful life changes. Is everybody good with that? Let me see some hearts or some thumbs up or some kind of emoji so we know we got some interaction going. Y'all know, there we go. Thank you. We can always rely on Crystal to be the first one up. You know, I love seeing stuff on the screen. Thank you. Look at everybody doing that now. Thank you, everybody. All right. As I said when we got started, you know, I think we're probably a week later is about enough time to say Happy New Year. We've been saying it at the office. We've been saying it to our clients, but we're still kind of in the New Year, new me phase. And in fact, that is the theme for all of January. And I'm seeing some new faces who have joined us. Hi, everyone. If you're joining us after we got started, put in the chat where you're from and how the weather is. We'd like to know how far our reach is and have you all chatting with each other. So January is our theme. Next week, we're going to be talking about new prosthetics and in particular, 3D printing of prosthetics. And the week after that, we're going to have Coach Jake back doing in-home physical fitness that is adaptive. So if you're looking for New Year and New Me to be a physical fitness kind of thing, come back in 2 weeks with Coach Jake. And then the week after that, we're doing a color therapy and self-confidence discussion with Kim McClure. Today, we have our special guest, Tian from Calm Pittsburgh, and we're going to be talking about the mental health side of setting New Year's resolutions, why you should, why maybe you shouldn't, and then how to be mindful of life changes. And that's why we have Tian here today. A couple of disclaimers, and I'm going to turn it over to Emily to introduce Tian, is please, everyone, Tian is a mental health expert from Calm Pittsburgh, but I want to be clear with everyone, this is not therapy, okay? So Tian is licensed here. If you are not in the Pennsylvania area, we'd love to help you find a therapist or a counselor or a mental health expert in your area. We think it's super important to treat your mind the same way you treat your body and be helpful. We're talking about global concepts here. So I don't want to find out that anybody else from a different state said, well, my therapist Tian said blah, 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 okay? Tian has given us his time as an expert to share global concepts, and we're going to talk about that from a mental health expert. If you feel like a more serious conversation and maybe even a mental health intervention is helpful for you, which no shame, I think everyone should see a therapist, we can help you find someone. Truth, Tian, I want to make sure I'm making all the licensing kind of ethics disclosures up front. Am I right about all of that?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're pretty much right.
Okay.
Like you said, this isn't a replacement for therapy, just a discussion on some broader topics that might be helpful for some, more so than others.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so Emily, let's give us the background for Tian's bio, and then Tian, we've got some questions that we're going to ask you, okay?
So one of my questions was, so what's Calm Pittsburgh? What's Calm Pittsburgh about?
Yeah.
So Calm Pittsburgh is a therapy practice located here in the Pittsburgh area. For those of you who are from Pennsylvania, know we have the boroughs. They're in the Lawrenceville area over on Butler Street. They offer therapy for individuals, couples, families. They also do group therapy. You can do it via phone or via telehealth. Let's see. So they do a bunch of different therapeutic approaches. They do CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. That's kind of like the triangle where you've got your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. And if we can try to change one of those, if you can change your thinking, you'll change how you feel about it, and then change how you respond in your behavior. So there's also dialectical behavioral therapy. They do mindfulness, trauma-focused therapy, solution-focused, strength-based, narrative, a lot of different modalities. And they also will tailor, if there's a different type of modality they think that would be good for you, they'll go ahead and, implement that as well. They do accept insurance most major insurance plans, as well as they do have private pay options as well. More specifically, Tian works there, and he holds a master's in clinical mental health counseling, working with teens and adults, such things that he can help with: anxiety, depression, grief, substance concerns, life transitions, and more. And very empathetic, person-centered approach, and he aims to create a non-judgmental environment for his clients.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to couple of things. Now, remember, everyone, this is an interactive conversation. So we've got some questions that we've pulled that are common questions from clients. But as we're going along, if you have a question that you would like to ask, you can come off of mute and ask that question, or you can post it in the chat, and we will read that question. We will also have So we're going to break this into 2 segments. We have some questions and answers for Tian. We're going to have a second session where we'd like to hear more from all of you as attendees. Resolutions that you've made, suggestions you have for other folks with limb loss and limb difference who are trying to make changes. So be thinking of those things too so you can share part in that conversation. Now, third thing I want to tell you is up at the very top of the chat, for those of you attending us live, we've included a PDF file that is a New Year's resolution chart. Now, this is actually from Lucho's family. Lucho, who's the man behind the screen. But we share this in our office. You can't see it here. It's just a white piece of paper, but you can download it from the chat. And we actually have these filled out and posted on our office with us filling it out. And we wanted to share this with all of you because it sets the context for our conversation today. You know, sometimes people talk about New Year's resolutions and they say, I want to be healthier, I want to be skinnier, I want to be prettier, I want to be a millionaire or a billionaire. You know, those are nice aspirations to have, but maybe not realistic, right? And this New Year, New Me chart talks about things that are achievable and things that are holistic. Like, I want to try this. I'd like to travel here. I want to learn this. And so we thought it'd be nice for y'all to have to even just think about, but you or someone you know might like to fill this out and keep it as kind of a reminder of what goals you've set for yourself for this year. Now, Tian, let's turn to you. Before we get started with some questions, is there anything else that you want us to know about your background, your education, or your licensing?
I'm originally from Philadelphia, so I've been on both parts of the state. The way I've always thought about therapy is myself. I always wanted to be the therapist that I couldn't find as a child. It was very difficult for me to find a therapist in big old Philadelphia, so I could only imagine what it was like for the rest of the country, let alone state. Pretty much, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so approachable, accessible style. We love that here. We have folks all over the country, including rural areas where it's very hard to find a mental health professional. And so I love that spirit about you, Tian. So we grabbed some questions from social media, and I'm going to read them to you, and I'd love to get your input from an expert perspective, okay? Now, the first question that we received is, what are some of the psychological benefits of even setting New Year's resolutions? And related to that, are there any downsides to setting New Year's resolutions? What are your thoughts, Tian?
So when it comes to New Year's resolutions, goal setting is always good, right? Having some type of goal that you are striving for makes it so it's easier for you to have something to look forward to, whether it be from day to day or month to month. At the same time, unrealistic goals are bad, right? So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to set goals that are very attainable. You want to be able to make sure that these are goals that, you know, are things that you can see yourself doing within a reasonable amount of time. We like to call them SMART goals in therapy. A lot of times when it comes to New Year's in particular, a lot of people's New Year's resolutions fall under abstinence, right? I don't want to do this thing, or I'm not going to do this thing. And it's much more difficult for you to notice. It's easier to notice when something is missing from you, and it's a lot harder for abstinence, right? So one of the themes that I'll probably say a lot during this is it's New Year's evolution, right? You want to continue to evolve rather than continue to resist and abstain and go back.
I love that. New Year's evolution. So instead of New Year, New Me, as if the current you is bad, we are evolving, we are growing, we are our glow up, I think the young ones say. Is that what I'm hearing, Tian?
Right. Like I said, you want to be able to evolve. You are continuing to move forward.
I see. Now, you used a term, I think if we could go back for a moment, you said SMART goals. I think SMART stands for something. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, very goals to go through, right? So, it stands for a specifics framework, right? So, SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievement, relevant, and time-bound. Now, that's a bit more therapy, but essentially these are goals that are very specific and that you are able to measure your achievement with, right? So, for example, if you say, I want to be able to go to the gym more often, right? A SMART goal would be, I want to be able to go to the gym at least twice a month, right? So it's something relatable, something specific that you're able to measure.
Got it. So you all, if you're using the cheat sheet from Lucho's family that's in the chat downloaded, we'll include it for all of you not joining us live. We'll include it with our recording link. When you're filling out your goals, you want them to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, right? So very specific in there. And if you want to do your own, go ahead and do your own. Or I think another example, Tian, would be if someone says, I want to I want to save more money. Everybody wants to save more money, but maybe saying I would like to save $20 a month and put it in my checking account, that is a SMART goal. That's something that's measurable, specific, and time-bound. Are we right? Is that the idea?
I think I may have lost you there. I can't hear you.
Oh no! Can everybody else hear me? Let me see some thumbs up or something if we can hear. I can see some head shaking. Yes. Oh no! So it might be just an issue with Tian. Okay, we can hear me now. Okay. Well. Yeah. I was given a good example, I think, if I had to pat myself on the back. And what I was saying is I think another example of a SMART goal would be if someone said that they wanted to save money. That's a lot of people's goal. But saying I want to save $20 a month and put it in my savings account, that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And that's the idea. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. And Sharon, thank you for that. Sharon put what SMART stands for in the chat. So you don't have to remember it. Write it down and do that when you're filling out your sheet from Lucho's family or if you're making your own list of goals. All right. So let's talk about, related to maybe the downsides, is what are your suggestions from a mental health perspective if your resolutions fail? If you don't rise to the level that you've set for yourself, that can be disappointing for people. How do you suggest we navigate those feelings?
Right. So one of the things you want to be able to do is live within your means, right? And when I say that, I mean, again, it goes back to giving yourself attainable goals. Some things, like you said, may not happen. You have to understand that it is a process. One of the big things that I say to a lot of my clients is that therapy in and of itself is a process. You can't be too mad that the process doesn't work the exact way that you want it to, right? So you have to be able to kind of essentially pick yourself back up, right? Because it's going to work, it's going to go over a consistent period of time. So like I said, be able to give yourself that, you have to give yourself grace, right? No one gets through on the first attempt, so it's all about being able to consistently pursue that.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like marathon runners, right? Mm-hmm. You're not just going to wake up one day and say, I'm going to run a marathon, right? You go in measurable chunks. And so what I'm hearing you say, Tian, is, part of the New Year evolution is giving yourself some grace to make that evolution over time and in ways that are measurable and doable for you. Is that the idea?
Right. Again, right, you're always trying to make sure that you make the accommodations that you need, right? Another part about life is being able, understanding what accommodations you may need when it comes to your life in particular. Everyone needs different accommodations based off of the circumstances that they have. So as long as you are able to understand those accommodations, it becomes a bit easier to, give yourself some grace when it comes to that evolution.
Yeah. And, I see a comment from Shane, which I think is a great idea, and it goes into our next question. So, Tian, the question for you is, are there any strategies that you might suggest so that people can kind of attain their goals? And Shane's suggestion in here is break it down into smaller steps, right? Achieve those smaller steps. So any other suggestions you have? Like, should people journal? Should they do like a calendar to track their progress? What suggestions do you have for how you can attain your goal?
That was one of the suggestions, right? Being able to break it down into smaller chunks. One of the ways that I was even taught in my counseling degree was similar. It's almost similar to a basketball player learning to get their shot, right? You have to see a couple of easy shots go through the hoop first before you are building that confidence, right? So starting with those smaller goals, things that I know I can do, right? Even if it may be as simple as brushing your teeth every day, right? That's a small thing that you have set for yourself that you're able to do. So understanding, again, right, goes back to, like I've said before, understanding that it is a process and that you evolve through a process. And
yeah. Well, I think we might have lost Tian's audio just a little bit, so hopefully we can get that back. Say hi to us if we can hear you, Tian. Can you hear us? Oh no, we're having a little bit.
Hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. It just went out just a little bit, but that's okay. We're going to get through it. It will not be a session of Life Amplified unless there was some audio issue. It's happened to us every time, and those of you watching the recording know that too. Tian, I think, and then I see John has his hand up, so I'd love to hear John's question or comment. But I wonder, Tian, what your thoughts are on, if you're breaking your goal into measurable steps. Personally, I think another helpful thing is to celebrate the steps when you achieve them. So you kind of celebrate yourself as you go along and really pat yourself on the back, so to speak. And it makes you feel, at least for me personally, I feel a little bit better about how I'm changing if I can celebrate the path, not just the end result. What are your thoughts on that, Tian?
right, and that's a part of it as well, right? Giving it that's a that's part of giving yourself that grace, knowing that, hey, I have achieved this thing. And hey, a little bit of a celebration is showing that I am on the path of that evolution.
Yeah.
Right? So
Great.
maybe a little pat on the back here or there may help you even get to that goal quicker.
Yeah, great point. And I see Kim had a comment in the chat too, which is to create a vision board or small index cards with a vision on each one. Again, so you can kind of measure and see your progress. That's a great idea. I also think it's always fun, Kim, like at the end of the year when you look back on your vision board and see what you've accomplished and maybe what you're going to carry over to the next year's vision board. Also okay. John, you have your hand up. Did you have a question or comment for Tian? We can do that,
Okay,
John. We're gonna. So, John, just to be fair, because we don't disclose anyone's confidentiality, I think you need to look at how often we talk to you, though. Okay, but I think what you are addressing is a larger question that we can put back to Tian, which is, for some people, vision boards, they sound fun. Fun resolutions. I want to change my life. Go on vacation. That sounds fun when you're at a point in your life when you can make those changes. But for many people, and this is what John is articulating, and we can go ahead and put John on mute just so we don't pick up any background noise. What John is picking up on is, for some people, you're at a point in your life where the idea of making a change itself is too hard, right? That you can't even imagine changing your life because you are facing so many barriers at this point that, as John mentioned, it's irrelevant if you make a vision board, if you don't have money, your prosthetic, food, shelter, right? If everything's coming back at you at once and you feel like your life is falling apart, it's hard to be like, woo, let's talk about fun, resolutions. So Tian, let's talk about that concept in particular, and maybe we could help John, but we definitely need to talk with John offline for specific interventions to help him with his issues. Tian, if someone is at a point where they're struggling, what advice do you have for them about where to start if they want to change a lot of things at once, or they're just so stressed in dealing with a lot that the idea of change is scary? How do you suggest someone start the process of a change?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there a little bit, right? The idea of change can be very scary, right? Especially when you don't know what that change is going to look like for you. So I think the best way of starting is understanding that this is going to be a scary process, right? A lot of times people want to go into the process that they feel the most comfortable with, and that does make things more difficult. So I think the first step is understanding that this is going to be a difficult process. And the next step is trying to figure out what are the base things that I am going to need in order to build up to the rest of my life, right? So another example of how we call this is the hierarchy of needs, right? When it comes to what are the needs that you need at the base of this pyramid in order to get to other things, right? If you want to be able to, it's going to be difficult to be able to create other and bigger changes in your life if you don't have the necessary things, right? Like you said before, if you don't have a prosthetic, then it's going to be more difficult to make more money and go out and find a job, right? So you have to start with those base things. So I think it starts with understanding what are the base level of things that you need in order to create the larger changes that you want to in your life.
I see. It seems to me one approach would be to literally write it down. These are all my needs, and then I'm going to order them as immediate needs and maybe something that's long-term or dependent on something else. Is that kind of the idea? Like you can literally write it out, map it out for yourself?
Right. Sometimes you just need, right? You need to see the basketball go in the hoop. You need to be able to see what the goals are, to be able to see this is what I need and this is the order in which I need them, right? A lot of times it gets very jumbled when you have multiple needs at once. Being able to recognize which ones are the most pressing ones and which ones are next in line makes it a bit easier for you.
Yeah, and I like Shelly's comment in here too. Don't try to make too many at once. Too many changes at once is really hard, right? So one a month, right? Or one at whatever measurable time makes sense to you. And again, you can start with your hierarchy of needs that you've identified. Too many changes at once can make all the changes, fall apart at the same time. Now, Tian, related to this concept, what suggestions do you have for folks who maybe they experience a little bit of keeping up with the Joneses, if that's a very dated term, where you measure your success based on someone else's, right? Irrespective of what your financial limitations might be or your physical limitations might be. If your neighbor got a Lamborghini, my goal is to get a Lamborghini. Or if my neighbor was going on vacation, my goal is to go on vacation. What do you suggest for folks who kind of feel like they measure their abilities or their success against someone else?
I think it's even though it's a dated term, it's still something that comes up, right? The idea of I want to be able to see my success compared against someone else's, or rather how I'm doing against someone else. In those situations, I would say that one of the things you want to understand is what is the happiness that you are chasing, right? When it comes to keeping up with the Joneses, you are typically trying to keep up with the idea of someone else's happiness or a very particular idea of happiness that may not fit what you want for happiness, right? For myself, right, growing up in Philadelphia, a lot of happiness was stemmed around staying in the city of Philadelphia. I ended up leaving because I viewed happiness as me expanding my horizons, right? And so that's what I view as success, and that's what I want to. So essentially, like I said before, coming back to what do you view as success and what is the thing that you want to get out of that success? It may be different than what the other Joneses have.
Okay. So in other words, instead of focusing on what someone else is doing, focus your attention inward on what makes you happy. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Now, related to that, do you have any suggestions for how folks might be able to keep the motivation or the drive to make changes as the year goes on? You know, lots of people make the commitment in January, and then come the second week of January, they've canceled their gym membership, they've fallen off their diet, they're, going on DraftKings again, whatever it is. Suggestions for keeping that motivation or that momentum of change going throughout the year.
Yeah, when it comes to keeping that motivation, part of it is understanding, like we talked about earlier, is that it is a process, right? It's not going to happen overnight. There's not going to be one day where I've immediately hit my New Year's resolution and I can officially stop, right? That's not going to happen, especially if, like we talked about, it's an evolution, right? So you have to understand that there may be days and there may be setbacks that you have when it comes to, hey, this may not have worked for me the way I wanted to, or I may not have hit this goal in the time frame that I wanted to. It's an evolution, right? Also to understand that if you are ahead of schedule, that's great as well. And that means that you not only have hit your goals, but you are exceeding what you want, right? And so that evolution is continuing even faster.
And I think this is another reason why, to use Kim's example of a vision board or index cards or writing it out or mapping, when you see how much progress you've made, you kind of feel like you want to keep going. Right? So even those visual representations would be helpful.
Before and our progression picture.
Yeah, progression pictures, whatever makes sense to you. Now, I see Crystal has her hand up. Crystal, did you have a question or comment for Tian?
Yes, I love all these suggestions, and I've done really well accepting the changes since my amputation, even since my accident. I've done really well with that, accepting my limitations. What I'm having a problem with is because I'm trying to do different daily changes, like reading my daily motivational book each and every day, date by date. And I keep forgetting that. You know what I mean? I'll go 4 days without doing it. Are there any suggestions that anyone has to help with that?
Great question.
So kind of like we talked about earlier, understanding that you may need an accommodation, right? So everybody is different. So if your original goal was, I want to do this daily, and you're saying that you're forgetting, maybe adjusting that goal and accommodating yourself. Say, okay, daily may be very difficult for me to start. Let's start with weekly, all right? And then we can build up into every other day. Then we can go into every day, right? It's about accommodations. You have to be able to accommodate yourself and the world around you.
Interesting.
Okay, perfect.
So instead of forcing yourself to stick with the schedule you initially started, modify your schedule to what you can realistically do. So I would not have thought of that. I was going to say, Crystal, my suggestion was...
reminder.
Exactly. I have a reminder on my phone that dings off every time it's 7:00 p.m. That is my time to go running, no matter what. So that, as I was going to say, set a timer, but you know what? If I'm running too much, maybe I'll take Tion's advice instead and adjust my schedule, to match what I can realistically do. Does anyone else have any suggestions for how to hold yourself accountable or not forget what you're setting out to do? You can come off of mute or you can share them. I see Tina. Hi, Tina.
Yeah. Hi. Crystal and anyone else, I use Google Calendar
and there's a part where you can put your task, your daily task in. And if I love checking things off, and it gives you a spot where you actually click a box and it gets checked off. So even if you didn't want to do it daily, you could do that, 2-3 times a week and then build up, like Tion mentioned. But that helps me keep things on track.
Yeah. And Tina, doesn't it feel good when you can check the box, like, I accomplished it?
Yes, I love that.
And Deb, you had your hand up too. What would you like to share?
I do. What I was going to say is pretty much what Tina said is I do keep to-do lists on my phone and on paper because I got a lot going on right now with different priorities for different goals. And they're not just personal goals, they're goals for my family. Yeah. But with the smaller stuff, if you don't get it done that day or if you don't get it done that week, don't sweat it. Don't beat yourself up for it.
Finger snaps for that. Amen for that. Yes.
Yeah, because you can do it next week. You can do it. Just reprioritize that list.
Yeah.
Just never beat yourself up for not accomplishing that one task.
That is such a great thing. And I think that ties in with Tion's point about giving yourself some grace. I would venture to guess a lot of us, myself included, especially our A-type people, if you don't get everything off your to-do list, like you have a meltdown, the world will not fall apart if you didn't do everything on your list. Great advice, Deb. I really love that. And Van Gregory, hi Van Gregory. I saw you had your hand up too.
Yes, I did. I'd just like to reiterate what Deb just said about if you don't get the small things done, even if you do have it on a list to get it done, don't sweat it because it may not be a higher priority and it may be something that someone else is expecting you to do. And it certainly may not be as a higher priority for you than it is for them or, some sort of interaction with someone else or another organization. So don't sweat it. I mean, just bump it down.
Yeah.
Do something else. Don't stress over it.
I love that idea. And remember, everyone, you control your life. It's only you living your life. You can set that priority, right? Or that hierarchy of needs that Tion referenced. And you can adjust or make accommodations so it's doable for you. That's great advice. Thank you, Van Gregory. Now,
I had a suggestion.
Yeah.
Sticky notes. Even
Sticky
if
notes.
you stick one on the bathroom mirror, you can stick them in the car. You can stick it on your door, and tape down the bottom so it doesn't fall because, that sticky stuff doesn't always stick that well. But, if you paste, tape the top, tape the bottom, you can put them anywhere.
yeah. We'll mail you some. If you want to try the sticky note approach, let us know. We've got tons of I don't know if our office manager would be happy if we start mailing our sticky notes out, but we've got a whole office full of sticky notes. So great advice from everyone. Charlene, I was also told to eat the big frog first, meaning to start with the hardest task. Yeah, get the hard one out of the way instead of leaving it on your list as a thing that you're dreading all day long. Great idea, Charlene. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Tion, I have a final question for you, and then we're going to open it up to the group. Group who's here with us live, we're going to pitch a question to you, 2 questions. So start thinking of your answers. One of which is, have you set a resolution this year? And if so, what is it? And second, what advice do you have for someone who's newer in the lifestyle of limb loss and limb difference about resolutions they might want to set? Okay, so if you're speaking from a position of lived experience to all of our viewers and our friends and our people who watch our recordings who are newer in this lifestyle, what advice can you impart on them? Tion, before we turn it over to our group, some people, and we've alluded to this a little bit during our discussion, the idea of change might be really hard and scary for them. And for some people, it might be the sign of some other underlying mental health issues that really do warrant an intervention, professional help. So what suggestions do you have for folks to help them identify when a change might be scary, like normal scary, as opposed to a sign that maybe they should really talk to a therapist? What kind of signs or indicators are we looking for when we might tell someone, maybe it's time to get some professional help? What would you say to that?
I would say that kind of a little bit like we talked about before with accommodations, right? If you are able to make an accommodation for that thing and it's a bit scary, you might be able to work through that. But when it comes to things that, you aren't able to make accommodations for, or you've tried and you tried different methods of it, then that may be time to seek mental health help. And the thing about that is it's not as scary as it seems, right? I always say that to people. It's not the end of the world. Everyone needs different types of help, just like you would go to a doctor, right? The example I use with my clients is if you had a physical injury and you went to a doctor tomorrow, you wouldn't look any way about going to the doctor consistently for it, right? It's the same thing about your mental health. If you aren't able to make those accommodations and it's a little bit more difficult for you, then it's never a bad thing to have somebody to help.
Yeah. In other words, Tina, I think an important underlying point here is mental health is good for everybody all of the time. Okay, you do not have to wait until your life is falling apart and you're in a state of chaos and crisis to seek help. It's okay to contact a therapist, a social worker, a counselor, just to kind of have someone as your cheerleader, so to speak, and to help you navigate new life changes regardless. So it's, in other words, we're not just looking for crisis meltdowns. Anyone can seek out mental health treatment, right, Tian?
Yes, anybody can, and at any point in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, life events, don't miss everyone loses somebody, everyone, so there's different things that happen in your life that just may cause you to need to seek out. And there's nothing wrong with that. Even therapists have therapists.
Yes,
they
sure do.
It's sometimes a lot to, listen to people's stories. It can make you, sad. And so it's important for even therapists to seek out other therapists.
Yeah.
So I think we just need to get away from that stigma of that it's shameful or something that's looked down upon. It's good to be proactive instead of reactive.
Yes, exactly. So to use Tian's point, my evolution as opposed to my resolution, my vision of an evolution for our clients is that we all engage in mental health treatment more, and we see it as a positive as opposed to something that we should be scared of. Now, Van Gregory, I see you've got your hand up, so we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, what she just said. For someone like myself, I know it is, obviously it is helpful to seek help from therapists and things like that, but how do you totally convince someone that they should go and seek counseling and or help from someone who also has problems and issues that have to have a therapist as well?
Great
it's almost
question.
Like, how can they help me if they actually have, issues and problems themselves? That's the thing that has always resonated in my head throughout all of these years. And one of the reasons I know certain cultures don't seek out therapy help from professionals.
Great comments. Tian, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing about that is, right, it is, like you said before, it's hard to, if you think about it in that way, right? One of the ways that I've always thought about therapy is, why wouldn't I try to seek out someone else to get a different viewpoint on it, right? I think I saw one of the people in the chat wrote something along the lines of individuals have health checkups. Why wouldn't you need a mental health checkup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar, right? There's a certain point in which, yes, you may have an expertise, but someone else hasn't trained expertise in this thing. And so it wouldn't hurt to get an opinion of someone that has that trained expertise.
Yeah. And Van Gregory, I think at least with us, without outing anyone, this is commonly a struggle for us, which is how do we convince folks that maybe seeing a therapist would be helpful if they don't want to go? Mm-hmm. And the short answer is you can't. You can't force. You can be there as a gentle reminder and an encouragement and offer resources and hope that they will latch on. And it can be a hard thing from a friend perspective, a mentorship perspective, or a professional perspective. The most we can do is offer encouragement and hope for folks. Deb, I see you had your hand up. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you again. My 2 pennies on this part is taking it to a professional is obviously like the best thing to do, but people really just need to be heard. They need to be witnessed. I've gone through a lot of experiences where I just, need to be witnessed. And I was able to not necessarily dump everything on somebody, but pull out a lot of my emotions and struggles and just talk to a couple of different people in a group, not as big as this, but similar to this, and we all shared like a common issues, and that helps. You know, they aren't professional, but if we could do that for each other, like I know Jennifer and Emily, you guys are working on getting mentorships for different people, and I think that's a fabulous thing. So if we can do that for each other, if you're able to be a mentor for somebody, I strongly would appreciate it. I would recommend it. Because
look at all the hearts going up.
Especially new amputees, they need it.
Yeah.
They need it. So if we could be that initial point, and if we feel somebody a little bit more experienced, if we feel that person needs more professional help, just kind of like
gently guide that way. Deb, one of the
but just, you know, don't listen to them, don't criticize them, just, you know, because they're coming from a different place than us, and it helps. I'm proof of that.
Deb, one of the things I'm hearing from your commentary, which is all very helpful, is, and Tia, maybe you can agree with this or reflect on it, is a lot of the times folks just want to be heard. They don't want you to tell them what to do or what the solutions are. They need to be heard, right? Tian, is that your experience from a therapeutic perspective, that many times folks, they want someone to hear them, right? And let them process their emotions as opposed to telling them what to do. Is that right, Tian?
Yes, that's probably the biggest thing when it comes to therapy. You know, one of the other things I say in my sessions is you're allowed to feel however you want to, right? A lot of times when people are in different environments, when they talk to other people, they almost aren't allowed to get out their feelings because they shouldn't feel a certain type of way, or they aren't allowed to feel a certain type of way. Therapy is the place that you are allowed to feel however you want to, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of the biggest thing that I think a lot of people really, if they could understand more about therapy, is this is a place for you to feel. You to understand what those feelings are for you, and to figure those things out, because sometimes it's very messy.
Yeah, that safe space to, you know, because some, like for an example, you know, it might be looked down on, and if a man cries, but that's a safe space that you can go to, you know, judgment free, where you can do that if you need to. So it's just really kind of creating that safe space.
Yeah, definitely. And Deb, the other kind of thing I pulled from some of your commentary is the importance and value of mentorship, which brings us back to our question to pose to all of you in our group. And I saw some comments that we'll read in a moment. Is any advice that you have for folks who are newer into the lifestyle with limb loss and limb difference about how to make changes and how to adjust? Deb's point is spot on. Finding a mentor, finding someone who you can share your story with and who you can talk to and be heard from. You know, it doesn't have to be a professional, top-of-the-line expert. Many times the best advice we get is from people with the same lived experience, or even, as Van Gregory alluded to, people who are also going through their own stuff, right? You get value from that. And I saw Sharon mention day planners. Get a day planner, use a day planner, and find the one that works for you, right? Let's see, bullet bill, half and half. Sometimes it's better to be heard, but having an assertive therapist definitely helps. Good point, Bill. Sometimes talking is to talk it out, but sometimes you might benefit from someone guiding you through a process, which is why mentorship might be helpful. Any suggestions from anyone else in our group on either resolutions that you've made? You all heard mine. My goal for all of you is, and everyone watching our recordings, is to take mental health more seriously. But suggestions that you might have for folks who are looking to make changes, we'd love to hear them. We'll give you a minute, and then as we're kind of wrapping up, Tian, is there anything that you would like to say in closing? And then we'll get to the comments from our group.
Just that, you know, like I've talked about before, New Year's evolution, right? Try to think about it as you are evolving into a better version of yourself, and in order to do that, you have to make accommodations for that self.
Great. Thank you for that. Now, I see Sharon and Marianne have their hands up first. Marianne, let's do you first, and then we'll go to Sharon, okay?
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
When I was in therapy at the rehab hospital, they gave me assigned me to a therapist who is actually specialized in people who have amputations. So that's been one of the biggest things that has been helpful for me. And I think, because she is a professional, I think talking to a professional is very helpful. she's not an amputee herself, but she is specialized in people who have amputations, and I think that's really a big help. So I wanted to offer that as one of the suggestions. If someone needs help, then maybe they can go back to where they had their, physical therapy and their rehabilitation, and maybe there's a counselor in that center that can help them. So I think that might be a good idea too.
Great idea. And Marianne, you reminded me that was also a topic that was suggested last week for our 2026 schedule, and we have that on the schedule to have a therapist who specializes in the limb loss, limb difference community. In fact, all of the ideas y'all gave us last week have made it on the schedule for 2026. So we'll be sending out flyers and things. Some of you are guest speakers, and we've got a whole lot of new speakers. We were able to incorporate all of your topics. We're super happy about that. Sharon, you had your hand up as well. And thank you, Marianne, for sharing. And that's a great idea. Thank you so much. Sharon.
Yeah, so I put the comment in there about all of the different day planners, and I don't know, I've still not figured it out, but I did also buy this year the new timers that you can just lay flat on your desk, and they
cool.
I sometimes, if I can set a timer for 10 minutes, I can get involved in something, and then I can keep myself engaged in it versus my distraction to many other squirrels around me.
Oh, that's a very interesting idea. So if you're someone who struggles to get started or to maintain momentum, or you've got too many tasks at once and you're not focused, get yourself a timer. That's a great idea, Sharon. I would love to, maybe you could email me the link to where you bought that. I would love to share it with everyone with our recordings for folks who might also like to try that.
Yeah, and this one actually, you can set it for like 10 minutes and it counts down, but you can also just turn it on and it counts up.
Cool.
So it's rechargeable. So I will put it in the chat right now.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, I really appreciate that. Love that idea. Well, everyone, I think we've shared a lot. We're coming up to the end of our hour together, and so we wanted to kind of wrap. If you have another question or comment, now is the time. And Tian, we want to say thank you to you for giving us your time today and sharing from a mental health perspective some of the ways that we can make changes, measure our changes, design our changes so that they are doable for us, and also how to give ourselves some grace. So we talked about the idea of a New Year evolution, right, as opposed to a New Year resolution. We talked about setting SMART goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. We gave you all in the chat a couple of times a little New Year's resolution chart. You can fill it out and monitor. We've heard some ideas about the timers, the calendars, the accountability, the mentorship. We've heard a lot, vision boards, right? Breaking your task into measurable steps, celebrating your wins. These are all things that we want you all to take away. And we also heard about if you're struggling to make changes and you've got a lot of things going on and your world feels like it's falling apart, make a list of your needs and then organize. Give ourselves a hierarchy and tackle them. Maybe you tackle the hardest task first, eating the big frog first, to use Charlene's commentary, or you go with the things that are smaller and measurable so that you can see some progress. And importantly, as you mentioned, Tian, it's always a good idea to get mental health treatment, but if you're struggling and it's interfering with your daily life or your ability to make any changes, that would be an indicator. You should probably talk to a professional. If you don't know one, check out Calm Pittsburgh if you're in the area. We can also help you find someone who's in your area. Tian, thank you for spending your time with us. And so we want to say thank you, hearts or celebration emojis and hands up, whatever you would like for Tian for gracing us with his time and his expertise. Y'all know therapists are not cheap, okay? And Calm Pittsburgh is amazing to us and gives us our time. But you're worth it, Tian. You're worth $1 million. If I had it, I'd give it to you. But we're a nonprofit, okay? So just thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, everyone. Now, we have a slight change of plans for next week. Y'all who are going to the Amputee Coalition Conference, please enjoy your time. Take pictures, share videos if you would like. And if you can break away for a little bit at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, join us because we will have Michael from Lifelong Prosthetics here to talk about new technologies in prosthetics, specifically 3D printing, not only of the cosmetic covers, but your full-on prosthetic, whether it's a hand, foot, arm, leg, if you have hip disarticulation. We're going to learn about the 3D printing field and how it can help you make your fit better, your sockets better, and can be more affordable for those of you who are looking for a replacement. Maybe you want a water leg, you want a flipper, you want a new tool. So come and join us. And if you're at the conference and you can't, watch for the recording on Friday. Now, breaks my heart a little bit, but I'm also very happy. We have decided at Amputee Aid to send another client to the conference, and because our budget was limited, I gave the client my ticket and my seat, okay? So I'm gonna miss you all there, but I'm gonna be watching you on social media and we'll be there with you, with spirit. We made a decision at Amputee Aid that it was more important for us to send all of our clients who wanted to go, and based on our budget, that was what we decided to do. But if y'all, you're gonna see me at some point. I'm gonna come to an event, and we're also doing an event here in April. If we can fly some of you here for it, it's gonna be at PPG Paints Arena. Charlie Batch, Super Bowl winner for the Steelers and former Detroit Lion, thank you very much, is gonna be our special guest. We'd love to have you all here, okay? So you're not rid of me yet, but you're gonna meet with me virtually next Wednesday if you can make our session of Life Amplified. The following week, we've got Coach Jake and we've got Kim McClure filling out our January New Year, New Me, or New Year Evolved Me theme for January. We love that. We hope you all enjoyed your time with us here today at Life Amplified. Until next Wednesday, 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Zoom and TikTok, take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of your week and the beginning of next week. Safe travels to all of you going to the conference. We hope to see you next week, Wednesday, 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Take care, everyone.